Good evening, you're welcome to Business and Enterprise. I'm Colm. If you're looking out the studio window from here, please don't think that today's programme is a repeat from Christmas because between the snow and the bad weather, you kind of forget it's the end of March, and in fact the clocks go back to summertime on Sunday. So we really are in spring, although it felt very wintry this morning, especially for my guest who had huge trouble getting up from Mulla earlier this morning. But Marianne Talbot of Administration Office Solutions, you're very welcome to Business and Enterprise. We'll start off with today's bad weather. We'll kind of bring it in topical and weather related.
Hi, good evening, Colm. The weather for me in Ireland is always bad. And I've just gotten to the point now where it feels like it's varying degrees of bad. So,
but did you not think today was a soft day, thank God, as we'd call it, no?
No.
No, because where are you from? What weather are you used to?
South Africa. I'm used to African weather. I'm an African used to African weather. It should be around 23 degrees now for spring, which I don't think it even.
We don't even get that in the summer.
No. There's no summer in Ireland. There's 2 seasons. It's autumn and winter. And this year we're having 9 months of winter and 3 months of autumn. It feels like.
So, South Africa, what brings somebody from South Africa? Normally we start off a little bit with your background,
yeah.
But I have a sneaky suspicion half the programme will be gone and we'll still be talking about your background. Tell us how you came from South Africa. What part of South Africa for starters?
Port Elizabeth. Port Elizabeth, which is, for those who've been there, the Garden Route is a very well-known area, very well-known tourist area, and it runs from Cape Town to Port Elizabeth, so it's either the start or the finish of the Garden Route, whichever way you're coming from. Yeah.
And what brought you from the Garden Route to the Garden of Ireland, which is Mulla?
The thing
I know it's been called other things, but we call it the Garden of Ireland.
The thing that makes women do stupid things mainly, I suppose, is love. Love brought me here, and here I am, and it's a testament to the fact how happily in love I am that I'm still here.
Despite the bad weather.
Despite the bad weather. Trust me, listen, there have been many days where I thought to myself, this is it now. I'm going to go. I can't do it. It's too cold.
If Ryanair did quick flights to South Africa, you would have been gone long ago.
Probably.
But because it's such a big hassle. Now, you're in business here in Ireland, but before we start talking about that, it's not often I get to talk to somebody in business in South Africa. What is the business culture inside South Africa like?
Things are very different there, and it's something that I didn't really consider when I was moving here is firstly the difference in size and countries. I mean, we're looking at a population of approximately 60,000 people. So companies, I think, in general are bigger companies. They're at different positions. I, for example, worked as an administration... When you say
60,000 people in South Africa?
60 million. 60 million.
What's the decimal point between friends?
I was never good at maths. I've never proclaimed that to be my strong point.
We'll delete that bit out, that maths isn't a strong point, considering your profession. But go on anyway.
No, it's little things. I mean, not important things, but things like, for example, your working day would be from 8 to 4:30 or 8 to 5. People don't start working at 9. You have set holidays over Decembers where you'd shut down for 2 weeks. And generally, as I said, companies seem to be a little bit larger. The position I had there, I was an administration manager, which was something that was quite regular there. You would find positions going for administration managers quite often. But when I came here, there's nothing like that. You might see very, very rarely a position advertised for an office manager, for example.
What is an administration manager?
Well,
it seems that we don't have any over here. We may as well tell the public what they're missing.
Yeah, I don't know if they're missing anything as such. As I said, I think it's just simply because of the differences in sizes of the country. An administration manager would simply be a person who would be in charge of all administrative procedures and all administrative staff in a particular company. So
an office manager.
Yes,
you're making it sound a bigger deal. We just call it something differently, you know.
Yeah.
So apart from that, are things more regulated? I remember a lifetime ago when I was involved in the customs clearance industry, and we used to meet up regularly with our continental counterparts, and they were regulated to bits, you know, whereas we were more laid back. Everything was, you had to get a license for practically everything on the continent, particularly in Italy, Greece, the Southern. It's funny enough, the countries that are in most trouble at the moment, but that's neither here nor there. Are things as regulated in South Africa, or are they as laid back as Ireland?
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily as regulated. The one thing that I did notice when I moved here was the fact that people don't go to meetings on time, or don't attend any meeting, or if they, whether it's a business meeting or if it's a partner or a director and the meeting is at 10, people would stroll into a room at 10:15, and that used to really baffle me, because I'm one of those freaky people who'd be at the meeting at 10 to 10 just to make sure that I was never late, and that's something that's very different there. I'd say working procedures are followed very strictly. You know, you don't saunter in at 8:05 if you're starting at 8, and if the boss says the meeting's at 10, it's at 10. It's as simple as that. So that was very, very interesting. I worked at Aer Lingus with a gentleman from Australia, and he'd set a meeting, I think, for 10 or 11, and we were there at 10 to 10, and the director started coming in at 10 past, and he got up and he left. And everybody was like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, no, I was here. Nobody was here. I'm going." And that ruffled quite a few feathers.
Because in Ireland, we're a very laid-back country, and people think
know,
it's great. The people are so nice, the people are so friendly. But the downside of that is, although everybody has a watch, nobody actually looks at it.
But the thing is, I mean, people always joke about African time and how laid-back things are in Africa, but it's more laid-back here. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
So you arrived over here in Ireland.
Yes.
Did you start your own business immediately?
No.
No.
First job I had, I was with Ernst & Young in Harcourt Street in Dublin. And I was there until such time we were at that point living in Ashbourne. And then we decided to move to Muller and Cavan. And obviously the commute then became impossible. And I left them. And the job I had after that was, they then opened the M3? The
M3, yeah.
Yes. I got a job at Aer Lingus, and with the M3, because I didn't actually have to go into Dublin itself, that was quite nifty, and it took me about 45 minutes, so that wasn't too bad.
What type of car did you drive? A Lamborghini or something? You got from Muller to the airport in 45 minutes?
Yes, easy peasy. Yeah, on the M3.
On the M3?
Mm-hmm.
I must try that sometime. Anyway, you decided obviously to set up your own. What was the factor that suggested you should do that?
I actually didn't. I didn't decide at all. My contract with Aer Lingus was finished, and I was humming and hawing about what I wanted to do and whether I wanted to try and go back into Dublin with the commute and the hours and whatever else. And my husband suggested to me that, why don't you try looking at doing your own thing and starting your own business. And I was quite surprised, but he seems to believe that I can do magic. So it was it was very good to have a lot of support. He was very, very supportive. And for Christmas that year, he bought me a computer and helped me set up a home office. So, and you know, I knew that I could give it a shot, and then that he would be behind me whether it succeeded or failed. And luckily,
Fantastic,
so far,
yeah.
it hasn't failed.
So, how did you get your first customer? That's great. We all set up our home offices. We all have the computers, and we sit there and we get our cards printed. But then we get to that stage where we have to go out and look for customers.
Yeah.
How did you get your first customer? It's always the trickiest. You know, hello, how are you? My name is Marianne Talbot. This is the name of my company. Here's what we do. Great. Who have you done? Do I know anyone you work with? No. In some things, it's great to be the first, but if you're the first customer of a brand new service, it's difficult to go. So how did you get the first customer?
Obviously, I was very concerned going into a small business, because I think when you have 20 years corporate experience, it means nothing compared to running your own business. You have no idea what's involved and the costings and all sorts of things that you have to learn. So it's been a very steep learning curve for me. And one of the things somebody suggested to me was to try and get involved with chambers and other networking groups. So I immediately joined the Cows Chamber. And
Not Cavan Chamber.
Well, Cows is 15 minutes from where I live, so I joined the Cows Chamber, originally.
That'll be brought up at the next meeting.
And I was at a networking evening there, and I met a client who's from Cavan, Sheridan Insurances, and he must have been happy.
Oh, so you've no problem getting customers in Cavan, but it's just joining the chamber in Cavan you have a problem.
What was he doing in Cows?
He has an office in Cows.
Not anymore.
No, but he had it at the time. He had it at the time. Don't be putting poor Benny down.
No, so I met Benny.
Actually, he was sitting in that hot seat only a couple of weeks ago.
No, I met Benny at a Cows event, and he must have liked me, and we started talking, and I started doing work for him. Mainly then, I think one of the first things I did for him was the golf day, which is coming up again now on Saturday at the Headford Golf Club. And that's continued, and I'm still doing quite a bit of work for Sheridan's.
So, part of the functions that you do is event management.
Yes.
Event management is kind of one of these titles that not many people know what they do. I don't know what's involved, and I have two daughters that studied it.
Mm.
But what exactly is event management? What does it cover?
I think it's... There's different kinds of events, obviously. So you could have... event manager could be doing somebody who's planning a party. That's not necessarily something that would do. I haven't done so far anyway. What I have done is I've done several golf days, and that would involve making sure that all the signage for the company is there. I would put together quite a few goodie bags with gifts for the golfers.
Would you be involved at the event planning stages, like say the feasibility study? Say somebody came to you, I'd like to do an event. I'd like all my customers to parachute out of a plane.
Absolutely.
And then you'd start, now that's a bit. And then you'd try and ease them into the correct, so you'd be there.
Yes. I've been fortunate in that a lot of the clients I've done work for so far have had events that they've had going on, say, over a period of years. Who did the work for them before, I'm not quite sure. But
they weren't as good as you, and as soon as you came along, they were dropped.
I wouldn't say that.
That's why they're waiting outside.
I wouldn't say that. I just always kind of like describe my role as the wedding planner. I need to be the person behind the scenes who makes sure that everything goes right.
No. So is it a trick finding out exactly what the client wants and giving them that?
Yes.
Even if the client doesn't know what he wants?
Yes. Well, sometimes it's maybe suggesting to him what he wants in such a way that he thinks it's his idea.
And do you always do what the client wants, or do you say, yes, I'll look after that, and then go off and do it how it should be done?
I think I'm at
without telling him, of course, and giving him all the credit.
Clients are different, and you'll find that some clients will say to you, Marianne, I need X, Y, and Z done. Do it, and don't bother me about the details, which is, to me, my favourite client. If somebody trusts me enough to go and do something and do it well without checking on you every 5 minutes, that's fantastic.
How long are you doing that now? The events end.
I started last year in March.
Oh, so you've always been doing the events in
yes,
the
right.
recession.
It was one
not
of
that
yes.
if you were doing events 8 years ago, everybody had to come in helicopters.
No,
budgets was no such thing. Everything is very much low key now.
One of the things I don't know why, but it's something that I'm very, very aware of, and it's something that I point out to my clients a lot. And my husband has told me that I often shoot myself in the foot, because I would say to a client, listen, I could do this for you and it's going to cost X, Y, and Z, but if you do it this way, it's going to be much cheaper. So I'm very aware of costs. I think because my husband has his own business, I'm self-employed. I know that it's difficult for people, and I'm not in it to try and get money out of people that don't have the money to pay. And if I can say to them, yes, I can design a business card for you, but it's going to cost you X, but if you go to Vistaprint, you can get it for €5. I've done that several times, and I'm hoping that maybe just by being honest with people and giving them good advice, that when things do turn around, they'll remember me.
Now, after the event, do you do the post-event evaluation? Do you do that? See how it went, what went right, what went wrong?
Absolutely.
In other words, so everybody learns.
Absolutely, and there would also be a lot of the social media involved afterwards to make sure that things like that get linked to websites and Facebook and get as much exposure as you can if it goes into the newspaper and that kind of thing.
And do you go looking for the press coverage? In other words, do you also act as the PR?
Well, if there's an event being held, I will contact Meath Chronicle or Anglo South myself and say, please, can you send somebody? And 9 out of 10 times, they're more than happy to do that. And they're then happy to make sure that you have...
And of course with the likes of social media now, and Facebook and, and Twitter and
yeah,
I'm trying to think of the 127 other Twitters that are Twitter type things are out there, because not long ago the Cavan Chamber of Commerce did actually it was the Positivity Week, and the end of it was a presentation, and one of the people who was speaking was Cara McDermott from the Cavan Institute, and she had a backdrop when she was speaking, and there must have been about 50 or 60 social media websites. Now I'd seen about 5. Now of course what I know about social media websites you could put in the back of a stamp, but there was 5 I recognised, but there was about another 50 there.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, obviously the first one generally would be Facebook, and that would be the most popular and probably the most effective. Facebook now has over 1 billion people using it, which I did some research the other day, and I realized that they said if it was a country, it would be the 3rd largest country in the world after China and India. And that's massive.
And its main export would be gossip.
Yeah, that's massive. So Twitter... Will
it last?
I think it will.
I'm just thinking of my girls 5 years ago. Bebo was the.
I was on Bebo. I was on Bebo. I had a Bebo page. I actually got an email the other day to say your Bebo password is about to expire. So I thought, let me renew that, because I've got like all the old family photographs all still saved on the Bebo page.
And as Facebook, that has kind of evolved, whereas Bebo was.
Bebo was a social network. It was a social network purely aimed at interpersonal relationships. Facebook is much more. Facebook has probably got as many business pages as it has social pages.
But yet, if you have a business page and if you have you have a personal page.
Yes, you have a personal page or a business page.
Oh, they're both pages. Sorry,
yes.
I thought they were 2 different things. But there are different ways of treating a business page, and a business page isn't supposed to masquerade as a personal page.
And it's one of the biggest mistakes that people are making, is that they'll set up a profile for a business, but it's actually using the format of a personal page. And then the biggest way to tell the difference is a business page you would like, where a personal page somebody would ask you to be their friend. Now when you're friends with somebody who's saying this is Joe's hardware, but it's actually set up as a personal way, Joe can go and look at all your personal photographs. And he can access all your personal information.
In would fancy Joe better to be looking after his business.
Because he's a person and not a business.
Yeah.
But a business page doesn't have access to any of your personal information at all. And it is against Facebook regulations to actually do that. And people don't realize that Facebook actually, they do patrol, and if they come across a page that's set up incorrectly, they shut it down.
So what's the best way to work a Facebook page as a business?
The first thing immediately would be to set it up correctly. That would be the thing.
When you say correctly, are you
as a
business?
As a business
not
page.
Not necessarily in any particular way, but the first thing you do is set it up as a business.
Yes,
yep.
You set it up in a business format. Then you need to, I would say, obviously you need to get your likes. You have to get your likes up. So there are a lot of different things you can do. But the best would be to have a kind of competition where people would win something, and then you get people who would share it, and the more sharing it is, the more people are going to like your page. What I find very effective as well is Facebook advertising is actually quite reasonable, and you can do, for €50, you can run 2 or 3 ads on Facebook a day for a month, for 30 days. Now, I mean, you could not get that in a newspaper.
No.
You can't even compare. And on a few clients that I've actually run that for, the amount of likes that is increased in that 30-day period is massive. Because what happens, if you're familiar with Facebook, you have...
Which I'm not, which I might be asking you questions, but you're looking up to heaven at it so basic.
No.
Facebook is not one of the ones that I could... Although I have a Facebook page, the girl set it up for me as a business.
Yeah.
But it just never went any further than that. Whereas LinkedIn, Twitter, I can get my head around that. But I cannot get my head around Facebook for business.
No, I find... to me, again, so you've mentioned LinkedIn. To me, LinkedIn is almost like the Bebo of businesses or business people. The Bebo for professional people. LinkedIn is certainly aimed at professional people, but it's not necessarily. And to me, my view is it would be where you would advertise yourself, and it would be about Colm. It wouldn't be about Colm's business, because you're looking at a personal profile. Where on Facebook you can focus on the business completely, and you can do things like list specials, and you can all sorts of things.
Now, do you look after your customers' Facebook pages?
I have several clients for whom I do Facebook pages. Yes, I do.
And again, would they just say, just look after my page,
yes.
and just walk away?
Yes. What I would do is I would prepare posts for a week. So they would just, say on a Sunday or a Monday, I would do them, and they would just run for the week, and they would come up at certain times. You obviously try and use, people don't know that, but the times that people necessarily spend on internet at work would be between 10:30 and 11, and between 3:30 and 4, because those are the times they take their tea breaks. Because lunchtime they might be out. So if you're wanting to catch somebody, those are the times that you put your posts on, because those are they have a 90% more chance of being seen than just randomly going out at 8 o'clock in the morning or things like that.
So that's funny. Like, we've only gone through two-year tasks so far: event management and social media.
Yeah.
What are the other services that you do?
I also do graphic design. So that would include things like flyers, brochures, newsletters, business cards, letterheads.
Printing, as we used to call it.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't actually.
Design,
I design, and then I would check with printers, and obviously I would get the best price for my client, unless they have a printer that they use extensively already. But I would do the design and the layout, and oftentimes if I'm doing newsletters and things like that, I would actually write the text as well.
So when you say write the text, create the content as
yes,
well, yeah?
Yes, so clients say to me, I recently did one for a financial services gentleman, and he wanted something on having a will. And the importance of having a wool.
Oh, will, sorry,
yes.
I thought you said wool. I'm thinking, okay, so this guy wanted to talk about a woolly jumper.
No,
having a will, yeah.
A will, yes. And so I wrote an article for him. I'm obviously doing research first and finding out that at least I know what I'm talking about. And I wrote an article for him about the importance of having a will. And in that same thing, I also wrote one about the importance of having a pension and what can happen if you don't have a pension and things like that.
Or what you can have, the problems you can have with a pension, and when you end up with it disappearing as well. Yeah. You didn't write that bit in, no?
No, I didn't. No. No bad news.
And the graphic design now, do you design logos? Do you design? Yes. Do people come to you with vague ideas,
yes.
or do you come up with the whole package?
No, somebody will say to me, "This is what I think the name of the company will be, or what I want. Can you come up with a few ideas for me?" And I'll normally I find that if you just between 5 and 10, I'd be more aiming towards 5, unless it's something that they really don't like and they're looking for something in particular you would redesign. But it's, if you can come up with 5 good ideas, then
your typical customer is what we call micro enterprise, is a small business. He or she, I suppose I should say.
Yes.
Since I'm talking to a female entrepreneur, in case you hit me with something.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not violent.
Yes. Okay, so the quality of the design, or the quality of the idea of, would say, small businesses. I've come across a lot of business that are fantastic at what they do.
Yeah.
However, talking about what they do, being polished on what they do, and kind of from a customer orientation point of view, they're a little bit behind.
Yeah.
Have you found that, and is that an area that you help them in? And helping them to polish up, like you could design the best widget in Ireland.
Yeah.
But your letterhead is something kind of grey that was printed 20 years ago because you got 10,000 cheap.
Yeah, look, I mean,
the phone number changed, and they've changed it in pencil, and they sent it out and that.
I would never stand for that. That would not happen. I would rather do letterheads for somebody for free than have them send out a letterhead with something written on it. While I'm working on a project for somebody and I see something that I could maybe improve for them, and improve not necessarily at an extensive cost, I would certainly suggest it. I would absolutely suggest it.
How have you found the cultural difference that there obviously is in Ireland, and I assume between Ireland and South Africa, and also between Ireland and a lot of other countries, where business people abroad are very positive. They're very proactive. Yes, I make the best widget in Ireland or the best widget in South Africa, whereas in Ireland, well, we have a widget factory at the back there, and sure, we turn out widgets and that's it. A lot of businesses, I suppose, coming from our culture, are self-depreciating.
I think one of the things I found that we hadn't really covered this yet, but I joined a networking group called BNI, also to get more clients and to just liaise with other business people and just to get feedback from them what they're doing. This again because I said I had absolutely no experience of running a small business. And one of the things in that group in particular, and those people I've dealt with, to me has been the positivity, the amazing positivity. I mean, people are struggling, and people are struggling everywhere, and especially in a family like myself where you have two self-employed people, you know, it gets the nerves get to you because you're not always certain where the next buck is coming from. So I haven't met any negative business people. I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't. I find people are working, if they have to work 10 hours a day or 11 hours a day, they're doing it. If they have to work weekends, they're doing it. If they have to, like the BNI meetings are at 6:30 on a Wednesday morning. If they have to get up at 5:30 to go to a meeting to try and network, people are doing it. And I think, you know, those are the people who are making it, and those are the people who might not be coining in the money at the moment, but they're certainly getting themselves from A to B and through it.
You mentioned their positivity, which brings you back to your website and your blog, which I looked at, and it's full of positive and positivity and positivity quotes and little snippets that kind of anyone reading it would get a boost. Do you do that for yourself, or do you do that for people out there just to give them a bit of a lift?
I have to say, to be honest, and it's probably not a good admission to make when you're talking about your business, I never thought about it when I was putting blogs onto the business that it would be for other people. It's just another outlet for me to post the kind of things that I would normally post. So my Facebook page is covered in them as well.
So if any of our listeners out there want to contact you, how would they go about it?
Okay, so you can go to my website. It's www.aosolutions.biz. That's .biz. You can email me anytime at admin@aosolutions.biz. And do I give out my mobile number online?
Well, I would tell you one, if I was good looking as you, I wouldn't, because you'd be inundated. Hello, would you help me? And by the way, I said you to give out to our listeners. Sorry, but my radio persona keeps kicking in.
No worries.
I should say to our viewers.
No worries.
Well, Marianne, thank you so much for dropping in and talk to us about yourself and about your business. And
I was nervous, but
I
have to say you made it an absolute pleasure. So thank you for
you're
that.
too kind. So there you are. I'm a nice person underneath it all. So that's it for tonight. We'll now plod away into the snow and go back home. Hopefully when we come back next week, the weather will be much brighter and business will be a little better. So until next week, I'm Colm, and you've been listening to, or you've been watching, Business and Enterprise.